Hello everyone! Recently my husband was going through some of his cupboards and trying to get rid of some stuff, and he came across this box of crayons. He had these when he was a child. I'm talking the 1980s here. We're showing our age a little bit. But they are pristine. He said he never actually used them, and he has very kindly said that I may use them for my video today, and I thought it would be really interesting to have a look at crayons that are between 30 and 40 years old and compare them with today's modern day Crayola crayons and see if they're the same or if they've changed over the years. So I've done a little bit of research, and I'm going to link down below this really great timeline of the history of Crayola, because they've managed to put up a whole list of things that changed with their company. As far as I can see, Crayola Crayons became a thing in 1903, although I think looking at the company they did other things in the 1880s, but they have been around for a very long time, and they've changed a lot, obviously, in the last 120-ish years. They were formerly Benny and Smith, and looking at this box, I'm going to guess that I've put a little snippet that I'm going to put up now. That they became independently distributed in Australia in 1980. So I'm going to guess that these particular crayons, which were given to my husband in Australia, were probably from 1980s onwards. He said he vaguely recalls he had them from about 1987, somewhere around that time. So we'll say they're 1987, somewhere in there, between 30 and 40 years old, as I said. They are still made in the USA. How cool is this plastic container though? They really did package things nicely in the 80s, I have to say. I do have a few things from back then, and they were always so nicely done. They have changed over the years, but we've got 16 colours, and I'm just holding them up to my nose. Oh wow, oh boy, those are really, really strong smelling of crayons. You know that particular smell that Crayola crayons have? Yeah, these ones are really strong. But that's the set he got. I think actually these were special ones that came in the plastic container. I'm not sure that all of them did. I think most of them probably just had the cardboard box. But here is a packet from 2020 that I got from a department store called Big W. They are also a set of 16 crayons, and I'm really interested to see if they have the same colours or if they've changed over time. So they both say non-toxic. And that's the back of them, made in the USA. So yeah, that's the difference in the packaging these days. They both still have this on the bottom, which is quite nice. This one says 16-piece Crayola crayons, and this one just says 16. But otherwise, some of the things have stayed quite similar, and other things obviously have changed. Now, I've not actually really opened these yet, so I'll just... Okay, these ones don't smell as much as these ones do. These ones are really strong, and this took me straight back to my childhood when I opened the box, but they still have that distinctive Crayola smell to them. Oh no! Oh no, I've got a dud in here. Look, check this out. What is going on? What is that? Oh no! Oh well, I bought these a while ago, so I don't think I'll bother taking them back. They were only, I think, $2 I paid for them. So, brilliant. But, thankfully, while I was in another department store, Kmart, they had this set for $9 and I couldn't resist it. So, I'll just pull out one of the crayons out of here and use it in this set so we can do a comparison. I also bought these in case the colours in here are different, so hopefully I'll be able to match them up and get identical sets of 16 colours. Alright, so I'm just going to have a look and see if they are the same or if they're different. Let's just pull it out of this plastic container. I'll put that over there. I'm trying to be very careful with these so as to not damage the box, and I don't want to ruin my husband's nice vintage crayons. I'm so excited that he had these. I love finding vintage stuff. How am I going to do this? I might lie them out onto the table in 2 different groups, and then we'll see if they're the same. Oh, these are never going back in the same way that they came out, I don't think. Oops. Gently put them over to one side, and I'll just drop out these ones. Both sets of crayons just had the colours in totally random order, so I might spend a bit of time and sort them into their colour groups. Okay, I'm really surprised. They are exactly the same. They have all of the same names. You might see a couple where I've actually made a mess. That is supposed to be violet with purple in brackets. So that was just my mistakes, and I put red orange underneath orange when those two should be the other way around if you really want to be pedantic. But I am just so surprised that they have kept the same colours and the same names on the colours. That's just weird. Although they do look a bit different to each other. So I'll just pull out a couple. These are 1980's crayons, and oh, sorry, there we go. It's got a big red word here. It's got red violet, so that the words are large letters, and they have Benny and Smith on them there, and they have Crayola Crayons. So you can see that their logo design has changed quite a bit too over the years. So if I find the 2 crayons from 2020, I'm assuming these are 2020. I mean, they might have been made in last year or something, but we'll just say 2020 for the sake of this video. And red violet. Okay, so they've added some French onto there, and also that looks like Spanish. So they have now got a few different languages on their crayons. The writing is smaller, or should I say the lettering. And they've got Crayola.com and the Crayola logo, which is different to that one. And obviously there was no internet in the 1980s for people, so and they've dropped the Benny and Smith. So otherwise they're pretty close to each other. If I look at the 2 reds here, it looks like, yeah, they're identical. I was thinking once some of them looked a bit more sharpened than the others, but now I'm looking at them closer. They are the same. The paper on the 1980s one is much redder than the paper on the new ones. So they must be using either different pigments or maybe less pigment load. Let's see if I've got some others. Okay, but see, these 2 look pretty much identical. This one's faded a bit, you can see here, and that would be the light hitting it, because violets and reds usually are not light fast at all. But how cool is that? I am so fascinated by these crayons. I just can't believe that they've not changed in 30 to 40 years, aside from, you know, minor cosmetic changes like the logo and the printing. But otherwise, they seem to be exactly the same crayon. So what I thought I would do is actually put them to the test, and I might do just a quick swatch on here, and then I'm going to colour in a couple of pages just so we can see how they work. And then I just remembered this orange one, so I think I'll need to open this big box. I might do that quickly now so I can hoik out the orange from here and use it in my video. Open here, it says, on the sides. Yeah, I'm going to have to do this off camera. It looks way too complicated. I'm just going to make a mess of it. Oh my goodness, look, I've started trying to open it here. You can just open the stupid box here. Oh my god. I'm so dumb. Anyway, let me find the orange. Okay, there are so many orange looking colours in here. Oh look! The first one I picked out is orange, so I'm going to use that. I'm actually really curious to know if they are all different. That's yellow orange. Oh no, look. This one says macaroni and cheese. Alrighty then. I might have to do a video just on this box of crayons, but I'm going to try and not get distracted at the moment. So I pulled the orange out for my testing purposes. I feel a bit guilty using these. These have not been used at all, and here I am about to sully them on the paper. Okay, so the colours are pretty much the same except for the red and the carnation pink, and I can guess that that is either they might have changed the pigment number in it, or it's just because these ones are so much older. There is a noticeable difference when it comes to colouring them down, and these ones are so much more pigmented than these. These were really waxy, and I really don't know if, again, that's because of age or if they've added more pigments or changed the texture of the crayons over time, but there is a difference. Sorry for the lines. I realised as I was doing this that I'm just on some signboard here which has got a bit of texture, and I was halfway through this when I realised it and thought, well, I may as well just do the whole lot because I want them to be on the same surface. If I change the surface, it would possibly change the way that the crayons lay down, so I wanted to keep them as equal and fair as possible. So this is what I've got here. That blue-green is so much stronger than that one. When I'm looking at them, they do look like they've used the same pigments. The colours are very, very similar to each other. I'll just hold that up a bit more. Except for that red, and once again, I don't know if that's just because of a colour change over the years, or if it is due to a different pigment. I mean, there's no pigment numbers, so who would know? But otherwise, they're very, very similar to each other, and I think the best test will be to colour in a couple of pictures. So I went onto Crayola's website and found some of their free colouring pages, and I picked a design, which is this one. So I will have to zoom my camera out. I've left the Crayola logo on here, just so you know it's their picture and not mine. So I'm going to put these side by side, colour them with the same colours, and we will see how they look at the end of it and see if there is much difference between them. And yes, it is killing me that I put the orange and the red orange in the wrong place and the colour order is not right. Ah, I can't stand it. I found a cutting board which is a little bit rougher and will hopefully work better with the crayons. I printed these out on plain old copy paper, so nothing special, but I figure that's what most crayons are going to get used with, is this sort of paper. And I'll do one picture, I'll do the 1980s picture, and then I'll do the 2020 picture. Starting out with the 1980s crayons, I could see immediately that they weren't going to be any good. It was so much like colouring with a candle. They were really waxy and the smell of them is just disgusting. I did not get much pigment out of them at all, even though I was trying to put down a fairly heavyish layer, but I really didn't want to break the crayons, so I was being quite gentle with them, and I just decided that I would try and do maybe about one layer, and I was trying to add a bit of shadow in those boots, but yeah, I wasn't having much luck at all. All of the colours were just really, really washed out, especially the blue, green, the yellow and the carnation pink. They were hopeless. But the worst part of this was the smell. They got steadily worse as I used them more and more. Like, the whole studio just reeked of this waxy crayon, and I was rushing through this because I was starting to feel really nauseated and I just wanted to get it done. And yeah, I had to take frequent breaks because I was like, at one point I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna be sick, you know, if I don't get out of here. So I needed to have these in a really well ventilated area, and even then it was pretty tough. And my hands just felt disgustingly waxy afterwards, so it was a truly unpleasant experience using these crayons. Moving on to 2020, these crayons were so much better. I just can't get over the difference between the quality of them. As you can see here, they were so much more pigmented, especially that blue-green, which I used for the sky. I was barely using any pressure and still able to get a decent amount of colour out of it. And this was the same with the other colours. I don't think any of them had issues. The carnation pink was still a bit on the pale side, but at least you could actually see it in this drawing, unlike the previous one where it was almost completely invisible. The yellow was also a lot stronger in the modern crayons. I think they must have changed their formula to improve it. There's a lot less wax and perhaps a bit more pigment because they were a little more crumbly. I did have to brush the paper off a little bit sometimes because I was picking up a few crumbs, but this was vastly preferable to the candle wax feeling of the other ones, and they did not smell anywhere near as much. They have a slight odour, but it's nothing that I couldn't handle, and it didn't stink out my studio like the previous ones did. They were so awful. But yeah, I had much more fun with these crayons. I also tried to keep this as fair as possible, so I used these crayons as I did the first ones, and I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I could have spent longer doing a lot more in the way of layering and blending, but I really just wanted to compare them side by side with the 80s crayons, and I just used that black again to go around the frame. And I think we can all see for ourselves that 2020's crayons are so much better than 1980s crayons. Look at the difference. I'm quite surprised actually. I thought they wouldn't be too much different, but the saturation level in this is so much more than that. And I could have gone further with these, but obviously, as I said before, in the interests of fairness, I tried to keep as much consistency as I could with the same amount of pressure and the amount of layering that I did, which was basically one layer and a tiny bit of trying to blend things. I know that we all tend to look upon our childhoods with nostalgia and remember things as being really fantastic, and there's often a lot of, oh, you know, things were made so much better in my day than they are today. But I can quite safely say that at least for Crayola crayons, 2021s are so much better than 1980s crayons. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's little video going back into the 1980s, travelling back in time. If you did, please don't forget to comment and like this video and subscribe and all of that good stuff. And I will see you all again real soon. Have a wonderful day. Swatch you later. Bye!